Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chit Chat. We are live tonight. Usually, I would say with Dima and Rob. Tonight, unfortunately, we don't have Dima with us. Ugh! That's okay. We're going to make lemonade out of lemons, and we're going to have an amazing guest tonight. So, without further ado, let's get, the reason why we're here to have someone very integral into our community and someone who's doing some amazing things. I want to introduce to you my new friend, Chancellor Xero Skidmore. Here we go. All right. Hey, buddy. How's it going?
What's up, Rob? I am having some difficulty. As soon as you went live, I started having difficulty hearing you. I don't know what it is.
Of course, man. That's how this works. We'll get you back.
I'm not getting any volume at all right now.
How about now? Anything? Anything yet, my man? No?
No volume. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you great.
You can hear me?
I hear you.
I can't. It's so weird.
Hold on. Y'all, this is perfect. For those of you who are tuned in, I'm going to throw this up really quick. We're going to work this out. Tech issues. All right. Here we go. We're going to try this again, okay? This is fun. This is actually kind of fun. I'm liking this. We adding a little flair, adding one of our 34 pieces of flair to this broadcast. Let's try it again. Xero.
I'm here. I can hear you perfectly. Yes.
You hear me?
Yes.
I think I'm not going to say anything, but it's this graphic that made it work. Putting up this graphic that we had custom made. I knew we were going to have a problem sometime.
It's not killing us now.
No, we're good, man. Look.
Let's go.
Chancellor Xero Skidmore, the man. You're here with us now. No technical issues.
None.
It's
the world we live in. It's the world we live in, man.
And look, everyone's got to be graceful enough or give people enough grace for that stuff to happen, right? It's just going to happen.
This stuff is very new tech. Before COVID, nobody was using really these telecommunications platforms. They were around. Nobody was using this stuff. It was like, look, just call me, man. Just this stuff is too glitchy. Just call me, And COVID hit, and then now we're kind of okay. Let's use this stuff, but it's still pretty new technology.
Oh man, it's still new. And I was telling you before, we only use the StreamYard thing since April, and look, we got people showing up already. They love us. Woo! We can have technical issues, Xero, and people still will love us.
There you go.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes. And then look at this. More adoration.
All right.
More adoration for you, my friend. This is great. I wish we could see these people's face. It stinks that it's over there with this blank person's face, but we know there's like a human and a heart behind that sentiment.
A loving person.
Oh man, this is awesome. You're already lining up the love. This is great. And look, I've known about you for a while. This is the first time we're getting a chance to actually have one-on-one guy time.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. But is that really all you had for me was on that? You are literally the wordsmith. You gave me.
Well, words are most powerful when you save them, So you have to strategically decide when you're going to use a lot of words and when you're not going to use a lot of words.
Amen to that. And look, apparently it's Orhan who's writing this, and there's a lot of love and adoration for that human being.
Oh yes.
Almost too much for this show.
Daddy's right back, Orhan.
There we go. That's why I love him.
Orhan is awesome.
Right there. All right. Well, look, you're the reason why we're on this show. You're the reason why we're here talking. I want to get to know more about you. Can we talk about the basics and then go from, because there's a lot to you that we need to uncover today.
Yeah. Where do you want me to start? I guess as I was telling you before the show started, I've just kind of always had to dabble in lots of different areas, and not always just to kind of make a living, but also because I'm interested. I'm interested in graphic art. I grew up drawing. I'm interested in music. I grew up singing and playing instruments, and I'm interested in theater, and yeah, it's there's really not any area of the arts that's alien to me, and even when it is to some extent, I'm still fascinated by it.
Well, and you're a creator too, but you like art. You ingest it as much as you are exporting this. What kind of art do you like? I mean, you just laid out a lot of things that you do. What do you like to sit back and watch or
Some things,
enjoy?
I'm a nerd over, and I kind of, I'm a snob. My wife calls me a music snob. Some artists, I
Okay.
won't even, I won't listen to them. I don't want to. I don't care that they have a new album out. I don't care if this is the best album they've ever done. It's not what I listen to, and I won't even give it a shot. And so I'm kind of obnoxious about some of my music tastes, but other stuff, when it comes to film, like I love just horrible B movies, just dumb action movies, and um, I don't watch a lot of documentaries unless it's a documentary about something pertaining to art. Um, and so there are areas in which I'm very open minded, and then there are areas in which I'm not. It's some things in some areas it's just hard to impress me.
That that's good to know though. You're being honest with it. I mean, you're authentic with like, hey, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. Don't waste my time.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was a famous jazz saxophonist. I think it was Sonny Rollins who said they asked him what his secret was, and he said, uh, "I don't listen to no junk." And he's like he wouldn't let it in his ears, and I'm kind of like that about music. I'm like, there's got to be, especially these days where everything is just at the tip of your fingers. Like, if you're not feeling something, there's always something else to go listen to. So.
Let's play a quick game. Can I interest you in some like some maybe some chill, maybe some techno music? Not techno, but like EDM.
Nope.
Can I interest you in ooh, okay. Can I interest you in some early 90s hip hop?
A little.
Really? Okay, all right. Then
Yeah.
can I interest you in can I interest you in a nice jazz album that I
Depends on
have
the
no
artist.
name or
Now,
reference for at this moment?
here's the thing about jazz. I'm not a serious jazz guy, but like the jazz I listen to, serious jazz musicians kind of give me a side eye. I like jazz vocalists. I like Kurt Elling, Jasmine Horn, Gregory Porter, people like that. Um, old school Al Jarreau stuff, but
Okay. Can I interest you in some Motown? Some of my favorite?
all of it.
I knew we
Yes.
would be friends. I knew we could.
All of it, like that is probably at the core of me, just the era in which I was born. I was born in 1971. My parents would just play that stuff nonstop, and so yeah, that's my earliest childhood musical memories are just like Marvin Gaye.
Did you see that documentary? Did you see
Which
not the one of Marvin Gaye, but the one of what is it? Hitsville. Hitsville?
no, I don't think I've seen it.
Oh, you've got to watch that Xero. It is
How
so good.
how old is that? When did that come out?
A couple years ago, I have to check IMDb. I can check that out.
No, you
Look,
don't
it
have to
was
look.
so
I can find
good.
it.
No, it's worth it. It's worth it. I learned so much from that, and then I had no idea. I knew they had a lot of artists, and they were rich. They had like their bench was deep as could be. I
Yeah.
had no idea that a lot of these artists came from either working backup or working in the office or writing songs, but got their break, and they weren't necessarily made for the front stage, like to be on stage. So there was a lot of oh man, just a lot of molding of people and development to get them to be as polished as they were that we can recognize them to be.
And we don't have that today. Like they
gotta watch that.
that.
Oh, the development of their oh my God, it was insane. You gotta watch it.
Yeah, it was basically they had to go to charm school. It's
that's what it was.
Yeah, and I would say now it's kind of a good thing and a bad thing. Like artists are more authentic in front of a camera right now, but they're not as polished, and so quite often they get themselves into trouble just talking off the top of their heads, and stuff gets caught, on Twitter, and they have to either come back and apologize or stick their head in the sand until it blows over. But artist development was something that kind of prepared these unknowns for stardom. And right now we don't prepare our artists for stardom, and so when it does happen, it comes out of the blue.
And look, this was 2019. I just looked it up. 2019, Hitsville, the making of Motown.
Oh, I'm gonna check that out.
It was so good. And Barry Gordy inspired me so much. He has this like assembly line approach, because he actually worked on the assembly line.
He worked in the factory.
He worked in the factory. Had no idea that a lot of his approach was based on the assembly line approach for the development of his talent. You got to see this. I can't wait. And I kind of want to hear what you have to think about it.
Well, there was Barry being such an astute and groundbreaking businessman, but then you had people like Smokey Robinson writing all these songs, and then later, people like Marvin Gaye wrote, Stevie wrote, and so what you also had was this where business meets art. You had such a great businessman, but then you also had all these great singers and songwriters, who were just as serious. Yes,
it was like I wonder if we ever come across that. Like that magical moment or that group of people that gather together to make that. I mean, I know it happens occasionally, but that was something special, Motown.
Well, I mean, Steve Jobs didn't code, like Steve Jobs was an orchestrator, like Barry Gordy, right? He was he was pushing this business forward in innovative ways, but you had some super talented people at Apple creating all of the software. And so, I mean, quite often you have the marriage of a great business person and a great marketer, a great seller, combined with the people who are making such profound and epic products or art.
I love it. Well, enough about them. One last question though. What's your favorite Motown artist? Do you have a favorite Motown artist?
That's Stevie.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think in the documentary, not to spoil it, but I think they say he was, between him and Marvin, they were the most talented folks that ever came to the board.
Yeah, Stevie is. We'll never see another Stevie in 1,000 years. That's
what they say.
Yeah,
they're right.
Yeah, I mean, I losing Prince hit me hard, but I always say if something happens to Stevie, y'all come check on me. I'm not gonna be well, huge part of my life. One of my earliest memories of performing is standing up on a picnic table under my grandmother's porch with a cowboy hat on and a broom, lip syncing Stevie Wonder's "I Ain't Gonna Stand for This," which is kind of like his one little country song that he did, and all of my uncles and aunts just cheering me on, and that was like my very first performance. I was probably 2 or 3, Stevie's like huge to me.
Was that the last time you got up on a picnic table and sang some Stevie?
Probably not, but
that's what
it was.
That's my point. That's just an average Tuesday, man. That was literally last Tuesday.
Yeah, Stevie's people like to throw that word genius around, but Stevie's a musical genius. Him and Mozart. I don't know about anybody else.
Well, so, and we were talking about music. So you, I didn't think that I knew, I really don't think that I knew that you also, you draw, like you.
Yeah, I grew up drawing with my brother. We started like kind of tracing comic book characters, then we started making our own comic books. Um, as an adult, there I did a couple of posters for my organization, Forward Arts, when I was running that. Um, but it was just one of those things that I kind of was crazy about when I was a kid, and then it got replaced by music and performing. Um, but yeah, I still have a love for it. I doodle all the time, but nothing anybody really wants to see. But I'm still a big fan of like graphic art and painting, and I'm very passionate as someone who admires the art form from afar still. And
So no, go
yeah,
ahead, go
I
ahead.
went straight from that into music. So started playing trombone at about in the fourth grade. Marching bands are big in the South, so of course I was in the marching band all throughout high school. Of course, went to Southern University. From there, when I left Southern, I continued to kind of go out and hang out at live music spots, and that's when I kind of started getting into percussion because I played trombone throughout high school and
So
college.
you switched. Yeah, you switched.
Yeah, I switched over to percussion, but I kind of approached it having a knowledge of music, right? And so yeah, I started playing with the Mike Foster Project probably about 15 years ago. And so I still gig with them regularly. I've played with a couple of other bands that have come and go, but Michael Foster has always been the primary band that I play with.
We were talking about this backstage, y'all. I mean, we had a lot of content lost backstage, but we just kept talking, and it was great. I knew tonight was going to be a special one, but I had no idea they've been around for that long.
Yeah,
And
Mike's been around a long time.
like I said, I think as soon as I started to appreciate and attend live music, Michael Foster Project was what I heard. That was the name that kept getting thrown around. Saw it a few times. I mean, that I think that's pretty special that you got a chance. You still play?
Yeah, I mean, we played a gig a couple of days ago. I got one coming up next weekend. It's outdoor gigs right now, of course.
I was going to ask how that affected everything. I mean, that's obvious a hit.
And we've done some virtual stuff, but yeah, everybody has lost a lot of gigs, of course. But yeah, the thing about the Michael Foster Project is that we're close enough to New Orleans for people to appreciate brass band music and want to hear it, but we're far away enough from New Orleans to where people will book us. We're local. We don't have to drive all the way from. You can get a brass band to play in Baton Rouge or surrounding areas. You don't have to get a band to drive all the way from New Orleans. But I would I would also say a band that's just as good as any band you're going to find in New Orleans.
Well, you talked about a lot of the team members and a differentiator, a big one being that a lot of them are classically trained, right? I mean, that's like my guys getting certified in the technology that we use and sell. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, brass band music is street music, and those street musicians in New Orleans are amazing. Our band is not necessarily better because we're a more precise band. We have a more precise sound, a cleaner sound. That doesn't make us better. It just kind of we're a Baton Rouge brass band. We don't really play a whole lot of parades, and so most of our gigs are club gigs, and so it's a different style of music we have a different sound. Yeah, different sound.
And that's what makes it different. That's what,
Yeah, I mean,
that's the sauce.
And we love the New Orleans musicians. We go down and play with them all the time, and they come play with us all the time. But when you hear the Mike Foster Project, it's a different sound,
This is the way I want to transition. You say it's a different sound, but sort of so is some of your work. So is a lot of your work. Your spoken word, your poetry,
Well, I got into spoken word in the late 90s. And maybe after about 4 months of doing it, I was able to travel to the national competition with the team from Baton Rouge. I was
Wow.
still green, but I got to see poets from all over the country perform, and I came back with this hunger to kind of, um, create something. Like some of the stuff that I'd seen was just unbelievable, and so I came back to Baton Rouge with this hunger to create and to kind of lead, and so I did just that. I started. We would have regular slams here in Baton Rouge. I started winning the slams on a regular basis, and the guy Dr. Ray Sibley, who was running the slams, he was getting a lot of complaints. People didn't want to slam anymore because they knew I would win, and
There
so
was zero chance they would win.
he he offered to let me host the slam every other week to give other people a chance to win the slam, and
Nice.
that's how I got into hosting and eventually becoming the host of the slam. But yeah, I think maybe in about 2002, I was a finalist on the national stage for the first time, and then again in 2004, a couple of more times after that, and then I started competing on the world stage. And yeah, it wasn't until 2013 that I won the world title.
That's not a small feat, my friend. That and hearing how long that took too. After
Yeah.
4 months, you were ready to compete. You start. It's so good. You start to host. Start to host. Hey, I'm branching out. Doing not just doing local stuff. That is amazing, and congrats to you.
Well, I tell my students I lost a lot. I lost a lot for a lot of years. I would win locally, but I would go to these national and these international competitions, and I would get beat down, and quite often it was, I would walk away. It's all subjective. It's judges, and so it's not like a sport like basketball. If the ball goes through the rim, it's 2 points.
It's standard that's a point, right?
Right, but with slam, it's kind of like the judge didn't really care for the poem. They gave you an 8 instead of a 9 or whatever, and so it's Olympic style scoring, and it's all subjective. It's just kind of a matter of taste, and so after a while, I kind of developed this reputation for being, I was kind of the poet's poet. The poets, I would lose the competition, but all the poets would come up to me and say I was their favorite, right?
Right.
But then when I won, I wasn't the poet's poet anymore, and so
right, you were the competitor still.
and so many poets hated me after I won, and it was kind of like you become, when you win, when you become successful, you become the establishment. You become your aesthetic becomes the accepted aesthetic, and so you're not edgy anymore. You're not cutting edge anymore. You're Spice Girls now. And so I experienced that, and so I kind of walked away from competing after that and just kind of focused on teaching and running the nonprofit I was running at the time.
I mean, that's an interesting journey. What are you sharing with your with or what would you share with a student about that journey, about the losses that you talked about taking, and then scaling that up the way you did? There's a hell of a lesson there. There's so much there. What would you tell a student about that?
The biggest thing for me was the year that I decided I would win. I had competed for years, but I would always approach the competition like, look, I want to be the best poet. I don't necessarily want to win. I just want to be the best poet. And so for me, I wanted to walk away knowing that I had showcased the best work that I could create that year. When I decided I was going to win, I went back maybe 15 years and looked at all of my best work and said, I'm going to use all of my best work. Some of these poems are old poems, but I know no one can beat this poem in the category that it's going to be in. And so I kind of really created a lineup that I knew was, for the most part, unbeatable, which it's all relative. But also, I had never prepared. I'd never prepared for a competition the way I prepared for it My daughter was living with me. My wife and my mom had moved in with me, and so I was in a small apartment. I would wait until everybody went to sleep, and then I would go into the bathroom and whisper all my poems in the mirror.
No way.
I would do that for maybe 3 hours, and I did that every night for about 4 months, preparing for that competition.
Do you still whisper to prepare?
I don't prepare anything anymore. I don't
Ooh.
compete. I haven't really been performing a lot of stuff from memory. That style of competition was like, it was like being in a Broadway play. Everything was from memory, and you had about an hour's worth of material ready to go off the top of your head.
Wow.
And so, yeah, you can't just get up off the couch and do that kind of stuff.
But then there's the performance too. You're not just speaking it; you have to feel it, channel it, and then you've got to demonstrate that to your audience too. So that takes a level of awareness, but also this level of performance.
A level of rehearsal. It's all rehearsing. It's
rehearsing.
You
were polished enough to pull 5 minutes of the 60 minutes.
Yeah, I would do like a 5-minute piece. I probably, we went with like 4-minute pieces, 1-minute pieces, 2-minute pieces, 3-minute pieces. Okay. But you would go to competition with about 20 pieces memorized, ready to go. And each of those pieces had its own blocking, its own tone, its own kind of hills and valleys.
You did blocking? You blocked it too?
Well, yeah, you're on stage. It's theatric. You had to know how you were moving across the stage, how you were emoting. We call it, this is from Danny Hock, but he calls it the vocal text, the physical text, and the written text. And so you start with the written text.
Oh.
You memorize it. You develop the poem as it exists in your voice. That's the vocal text. That stuff is not on paper, but there are choices that you've made, how you're going to read each line, how fast, how quiet, how loud, and then the physical text. What do I do with my hand when I say this line? It becomes a part of the poem as it exists in the body. And so there's 3 texts for every poem when you're doing spoken word. Maya Angelou
text, the physical text,
the written
text.
Right. So Maya Angelou had her written text. She wrote her poem. She sent it to the publisher. It came out in a book. And let me add this: I've seen her perform. She's amazing. She was amazing. But
she obviously had the other text because she did.
She did. But most published poets are dealing with the written text primarily, and they don't do a lot of reading. I remember I was hired to do a show at a literary convention, and I went up on stage and performed a set before this novelist went up on stage and read excerpts from his novel. And he was like, "Why in the world would y'all make Xero go up in front of me?" Yeah. And I was like, I looked at him and was like, I don't know.
And next year you were hosting the show. You were hosting the fair.
Right. But it's a way to, even poets who primarily deal with the written text, they also understand that poetry is meant to be read aloud.
Yeah.
And when they're getting their poems, submitting poems to be published, they're thinking about, before I submit this poem, I got to make sure it sounds right when I say it out loud. And so, the original medium of poetry, when you go back to the days of, the old Greeks, that stuff was being read aloud in these proscenium halls or performance venues. And so it wasn't until later that books came about. So we're the original poets. The spoken word poets are the original poets. We have more in common with those old Greek poets than these poets today with their fancy newfangled books and stuff. And so, yeah, it's how poetry was meant to exist, as having a connection to the lyrical, having a connection to the ear, and the voice. And so I feel like spoken word is poetry in its rawest form.
There was so much to that, man. I love that got deep. I love the message, and I learned so much about the vocal text, the written text, the physical text. I love that. I can actually apply that to many other things. So I mean, thank you for that, sharing that. I think there's others that can benefit from that too. Now, so I want to kind of switch now. With that in mind, I told you I wanted to share this Marcus Stroman piece.
Oh yeah.
So this is going to be, it's not going to be physical. This is spoken again. So this is the vocal text.
There's a vocal text, there's a written text, not a physical text. So when you're dealing with audio, you're dealing with a vocal text, definitely. I wrote the piece. The weird thing about this whole thing, Tommy Taylor reached out to me. It's like, I don't have a paying gig for you. We want to shop this thing to Adidas, but we're gonna make it first, and then we're gonna try to get Adidas to pay us for it. And so he's like, it's a long shot. And I was like, cool, I'm not busy. Like, shoot it over to me. And, Tommy has brought me so much actual paying work that I'm like, whatever. Yeah, let's do it. And so I recorded on my telephone, on my iPhone, on the voice memo. And I sent it to him. I wrote it. He maybe gave me a day. And I sent him the voice memo. Say, hey, let me know what you think. Tommy took that audio and used it. There are parts of it, I can't remember exactly where, but like if you listen really closely, you can hear my kids playing in the background. Tommy took that and used it. Adidas didn't bite, but he submitted it to the Addies, and it won a regional Addy, and it won best overall at the regional Addy. And then it went on to the national Addy and won gold at the national Addies. And so the audio, it kind of sounds like we're doing a really kind of cool, edgy thing with the audio. And it's really just cheap audio. Like since that happened, I went and bought a Neumann TLM 102 microphone.
Yeah.
That's the microphone I use now.
Because Tommy,
they retail for $800. But the commercial that I won an Addy for, I recorded on my phone.
That is fantastic, man. I love that story. That just makes this work all that much better. And that's when, like, we were talking about Motown earlier, when you get a lot of good people, some good talent, and just some creativity there.
Yeah.
Let's not even joke. A deadline helps so much.
Oh, yes. Oh yes.
But wow, all of that surrounding this piece, and it is no wonder why it was so successful, man. I want to play this really quick. Props to Tommy Talley at Echo Tango and his team, indeed, just killing this. Tommy was a guest on our show earlier, and we love that show. That was an awesome one. And then so Xero, we gotta show everybody what you can do, man. This is nothing. You've got something else, I think, up your sleeves you might even share. But let's go ahead and put this on for a minute and watch this really quick, and we'll catch you back after this video is done.
All right.
By all means, keep underestimating me, and I'll keep surpassing your limited comprehension of what is possible. For example, this is not a hand. It's a time machine, fueled by a grandmother's DNA. It blurs the line between here and after. It splits split seconds and rips stitches from catcher's mitts only halfway through the pitch. And this is not an arm, it's a lasso. It ends the chase before one foot can pick up the pace. It leaves a trace as bitter as a no-hitter must taste. This arm is an imaginative line, the shortest distance between 0 points. This stance is a blizzard. I stand up and batters can't leave home. Need to be dug out. Liquid helium in my veins. The title of marksman hit me in my name. No I in team. A. I am in aim. This heart is a castle. It has room enough for me to tower over expectations. I believe in myself like elders believe in progress. This heart can outstretch the neck of Loch Ness, reduce a team's dream of conquest to a hot mess. This heart beats everyone. I turn a mound into a mountain. A snow-capped hike with blue stripes. I'm the type to frighten batters who take swipes at streets of white light. I'm not the HDMH website. It invites hits. I'm the hype. I'm the sales pitch, the brand, and the movement. I'm the original and the improvement, the master and the student, the solution and the nuisance, the everyman and the superhuman. So by all means, keep underestimating me. I'm the truth, right under your nose, over your head, and through with your stereotypes.
That was amazing.
Thanks.
Oh, when Tommy sent that the first time and I uploaded it to StreamYard, I must have watched it 7 times. It was so damn good. I love it. Outstretch the neck of the Loch Ness. Just, ugh.
And well,
Right,
you know, I never had a chance to go back. It's funny because, you know, there's a poetry critic from I think the 1700s, Paul Valery. He said, "A poem is never finished, only abandoned." And I remember thinking to myself when I first heard it, I was like, "Oh, I should have changed that line. Oh, I wanted to change that. Oh, that's so cheesy. Oh, whatever, blah blah blah." And Tommy was like, "Don't change anything. No, this is cool. This is it. This is what I want." And so, had he left me to tinker with it a little longer, I might have made it more lame, or you know. So you never know, you know.
Yeah, that is amazing. So you were saying a lot now that, and I read somewhere that the inspiration kind of finds you, or you don't have to, you know, you don't have to go looking for it. It kind of finds you. What is there anything?
I've always told my students that you find the inspiration. If you sit around waiting for inspiration to come find you, somebody else is going to take your gig. You know, I when I train young people to become writers, I want them to be working writers, not unemployed writers. And so we don't sit around waiting for inspiration. This is art, true. And sometimes, yes, you'll get the muse will visit you, and you know, and it'll be like, oh, this poem wrote itself, right? But that's actually very rare. But I'm of the mind that creativity is a muscle, and if you build that muscle up, you can respond creatively much quicker and with much more power than someone who hasn't built that muscle. And a lot of it is also just getting around your this bad habit humans have of kind of censoring ourselves before we can even get the idea out of our brains, you know.
Good point.
So that is it's just some of it comes with confidence, some of it comes with years of experience in doing this for so long, and being confident that my ideas are at least okay, you know.
Is that when you decided that you were going to win?
Well, yeah, I think it quite often it is a decision, you know. You quite often the things that I've been successful at them because I've managed to obsess over them in a positive way, and so I call it a healthy obsession. If I'm spending hours a day preparing for something, that's cool if I'm still eating and sleeping and you know, not driving myself to drink, so to speak. And so having some artists don't have a healthy relationship with creativity, and we hear those horror stories all the time. Yeah. But you know, I never wanted to be that kind of an artist who was self-destructive in their pursuit of greatness or some masterpiece or whatever. I try to stay creative, and then once it's out of my system, I move on to the next thing.
Well, so what's the next thing?
Well, right now I'm at the Arts Council. I'm the director.
And hats off to the Arts Council. I was more asking about creativity.
Yeah, you know.
You better not. We love the Arts Council.
Yes. So a big part of my job is kind of serving the arts community. Shining a spotlight on what other people are doing quite often. Also, still, I get a chance to teach sometimes. Before COVID hit, I was doing writing workshops at Dixon Correctional Center.
We talk about that.
Yeah, and so that was amazing. You know, Shout out to all my students over at Dixon. Just some great poets in that place who, they just wanted to write, and I was just going in there to help them become better poets, and was doing weekly workshops over there. But we're all kind of experiencing, and I of course, what I'm experiencing with quarantine or trying to stay home is nothing compared with what they're experiencing now with not being able to have visitors, and quite often not being able to get together inside the prison. And so, I always stop and think about how lucky I am that this is all I got to do is wear a mask and stay home. Cool. At the worst of it, it was just like, solitary confinement for everybody, and so, yeah, I'm right now they're mailing me their poems, and
yeah, that's
and
cool.
I write feedback onto the poem and then I mail it back to them.
Oh, that's great.
It's something, it's not like I'm teaching a workshop.
I know it's not the real thing and you're not there personally, but you're still giving your time and your talent. That's still.
It's part of, I'm getting paid, it's like, I'm not a saint, it's part of my job. I'm lucky enough to have a job where I get paid to do that. So, that's, I'm lucky. That's what that is.
Well, so for those who don't know, what's the program that's allowing that?
That particular program is called Arts and Corrections. It was a program that originally started out in California. There's an organization called California Lawyers for the Arts, and they started the Arts and Corrections program out there. And when they started expanding, they looked at Louisiana and it's like, oh, there's a lot of prisons in Louisiana.
Yeah, we could use, less, recidivism there. And
yes. And you're right. It helps with all of that recidivism. It helps with morale inside the prison, which is going to keep violent incidents down, which makes it safer for the inmates. And it also makes it safer for the staff working in there. And so everybody, I went to Dixon and like everybody was so nice to me. Everybody wanted this so badly. And, when I would walk into the workshop, all the guys would be sitting on the edge of their seats, grinning, can't wait to get started. And I never had that experience teaching in high school. So,
right.
So,
we thought high school was the prison, honestly. And then look at that. There's a lesson there. Look at that. Look at that shift in attitude.
No, these guys love it. I was only working with the trustees. So these were guys who've proven to the staff that they can be trusted, they're responsible, they're really participating in their own rehabilitation in a real way. And so they walked me in on day one. I'm in the room with 15 to 20 inmates, and the guard was like, all right, cool, I'll see you when you're done and come back out to I was like, oh, y'all just gonna leave me in here. And the minute I started talking to the guys, it was just like I was in a room full of poets, and
it just melted away. I gotta ask, do we have someone going on the female side as well?
I was in the process of sending an artist over to the women's prison, LCIW, when COVID hit.
Oh, man.
So right now, Pamela Board, who's over there, she actually has a sign-up list going around right now for me to start doing the snail mail workshops with.
That's great.
Yeah, with the poets over there. But I actually think I'm going to reach out to a woman poet to do those to respond to those poems.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
that would be great. Well, so I want to ask. Dima had mentioned that maybe y'all were talking about something. You have some of your work already. Is it cool if we talk about that now, or?
Yeah. So we oh man, so the setup to all of this. I had a conversation about some of the depression that a lot of artists are experiencing with not having, especially performing artists, not having live audiences to play to anymore, not having that income from the gigs, but also just not being able to kind of exist as an artist and create and release and get up on stage, right? All of that. So when you lose that stuff, which I walked away from Slam in 2013, and I eventually had to go talk to a therapist. Like it had been such a huge part of my life for so many years. It had become a part of my personality. And when I lost it, when I lost that outlet, it was yet another thing that contributed to my depression. And I eventually had to go and sit and talk to a therapist about it. And I can feel I have some tools to deal with it now, but yeah, it's real. And so I ended up writing a poem Monday. Today is Wednesday. Today is Thursday.
Like this Monday, like
Monday. Yeah, this couple of days
like
ago. Yeah, I started on a rough draft when I got home. I ended up talking to Dima, and the subject came up, and I was like, "You want to hear a poem?" And it was like a rough draft. She heard it, and she was like, "Would you read it on the show?" I was like, I'll read it on the show. I'll probably revise it a little bit before then, but yeah, I'll read it on the show. So like, only person in the world that's heard it is Dima.
Okay. Well, look, whenever you're ready, whatever you got to do to prepare, go for it. I cannot wait to hear this. I'm so excited.
I'm just reading it off my iPad. I don't need to prepare anything. This is awesome. It's called Elegy for live audiences, and so the setup too is a traditional elegy. It starts with grief, and then praise, and then consolation. Right? You're trying to console the audience or whatever. And so I kind of took a few liberties with the order of those things, but yeah, it's an elegy. It's a poem of loss. Right? It's called Elegy for live audiences. Beethoven lost his hearing, but still had everyone else's ears. Without you, I'm stuck. Listening to myself, listen to myself. Doctors said you were a cemetery waiting to sprout headstones. The governor banned you from applauding my serenades in person. Conversations with my echo are repetitive and distant. And now I know that I never wrote for myself. I wrote for you. My joy was in watching you unwrap it all. This tongue is a weather-beaten plank, rotting inside my foreclosed mouth, scraping stanzas onto ruptured gums. When drawing a crowd becomes lethal, we realize that censorship was only a pain in the ass. This secret glyph I call a voice is smeared onto the walls of a buried cave, and folks already had trouble telling the difference between a living poet and a dead one. I've decided not to kill myself this time. I don't feel like I'm worth the trouble this time. Don't know how many nightmares before next time. There is no sweetness in sterilization. The air was straight sugarcane when huffed from your legion of lungs. You looked at me like I was one of those special kinds of cupcake that cool kids bring to parties. Impressed with the flash of my red congas, I never knew I had good taste until you savored the licks I played. So many nights I accurately read the room and blushed in response to your gaze. It was sight at first love and normal. Why did you have to treat me like a god? You were what I prayed for. America appropriated this virus and you got smaller. You became my wife, my children. My performances were entitled, Guess What Happened on My Zoom Meeting? And Daddy Reads a Story. And Daddy Makes a Funny Face. And Daddy Farts a Funny Fart. And Daddy Says, Not Right Now. And Daddy Loses his temper. And Daddy is quiet. And Husband is quiet. And Husband is crying because Daddy Loses His Temper was a popular cover tune from my childhood. I know you're not dead. I'm hoping your absence will someday be just another trauma to unpack. But some days I'm mourning a portion of myself. Some days the part that truly grieves is the part that's gone missing. I'm trying to figure out how mortals enjoy life's joys. Trying to figure out how to appraise all this good fortune. It would have been better to fall from the heavens than to splat onto a windshield, but what's done is done. And I'm seeing stars instead of a future. I can't see myself as anyone else's star. And I'm ashamed of this self-imposed blindness, afraid to open my eyes. I might walk past a mirror and see a monster or a failure or nothing.
Mm. Whew. I don't know what the normal reaction is to this piece, but
I don't know either. It's I don't know if
Damn
there is
it.
one.
Why did you do that? Xero. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't perform. I'm not an artist, but you painted that picture so clearly of the loss, and like anyone who's experienced a loss or what we were talking about can relate to what you just painted in my head. Oh my!
Well, I was talking to Renee Chatelain at the Arts Council, and she said, she's seen dancers experience this when they get too old to move the way a dancer has to move, and they try. You have to. I would guess too, like someone who retired from a career. You spend your life mastering this thing, and then one day you can't do it, and it's kind of like, okay, so I spent all my life trying to be good at something, and now I'm not good at anything, right? It's like now I'm on a level that I was on when I was 19 and I hadn't mastered anything, right? Because the one thing I mastered, I'm not doing. And so it is an impact to the psyche, and it can run you down, man. It can, yeah. Like I said, I got to a point where my wife was like, "You got to go talk to somebody. This is not okay." Because when I lost that kind of regular performing, and I was still playing music, but I wasn't necessarily bearing my soul on a regular basis to a room full of strangers, right? So it was different, and a lot of things bubbled up, some of the abuse I suffered as a child, and some old traumas that I'd kind of been using spoken word as an ointment on some of those traumas. And when I lost that, some of that stuff was just, everything was triggering me, and I was mad all the time and sad all the time, and feeling mad about feeling sad. And yeah, it's like I had to, you had to go talk to somebody sometimes, man. Therapy is great.
I had to do it during this COVID shit, man. I had to do it. I was need to be done. I needed to strike that balance and find someone else's viewpoint to help me hone mine, right? Well, and be okay with others and mine.
Well, especially in the Black community, there's a lot of stigma around therapy, and of course, too, it's not cheap.
It's not.
But I just tell people, the simple thing for me, or how I try to simplify it for people, is like I needed to figure some things out, and it's kind of hard to figure out your own brain. Sometimes you need to talk to somebody because your brain is the thing trying to figure itself out.
Yeah.
You
get caught in a loop too.
Yeah, it's like, yeah,
it feeds itself.
It does. It does. If I'm glitching, if I'm psychically glitching, right? If my psyche is glitching, I can't use that same psyche to figure out why I'm glitching.
Yeah.
And so you need to go talk to somebody.
I do it, and I'm glad I do it. I highly recommend it. I'm glad you did it, brother. That's amazing. I feel like there's some strength there. You've got to talk and acknowledge the strength that it requires to do something like that. And
I'm trying to normalize it, Rob. I mean,
it should be. It should be.
I feel like if my stepdad had went and talked to somebody, I would have had a different childhood, And I had also just become a new dad yet again. My oldest is 28, but I have a 5-year-old. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and so at at this late stage in my life,
Yeah.
I became a father again. And, my therapist was like, look, there's probably a little dash of postpartum depression mixed in there too. Men get it as well, and there's a lot of change going on in your life right now. And that, of course you're having issues right now,
Yeah, I'm so glad. Why'd you settle on this piece? And then I want to ask about like this topic, not this piece. I want to know how why you went down this path about this one topic. And then can you kind of tell me where you were mentally in that space when you were creating this? Because there's times in this elegy, you bring me through so much, and something that I'm going through currently. Something that I've never experienced through the eyes of an artist, through someone who's performing and dealing with this. And then, where are you experiencing those as you're writing this? Or is this like are you a third person? Are you playing the video game and you're not first person anymore? What's going on?
It's not either or. I think, great writers, they're speaking about something through a lens, and they can zoom in and zoom out throughout. It's like you're watching a good movie, right? And they're gonna zoom in on some things, and some things you're gonna see from, they're gonna zoom out, you see the whole neighborhood. Then they zoom in, you see the kitchen. They zoom in, you see the toaster, right? And so I think good art gives you multiple perspectives. For me, writing about this, I'm writing as a spoken word performer who walked away from spoken word back in 2013. I'm also writing as a musician who's still a working musician, but hardly working. But I'm also, I've had a couple of writing poetry, and I would say probably all art is part of a much larger conversation. The artist is having actual, water cooler conversations with people from various backgrounds, and all of that kind of eventually synthesizes into, when you sit down to write, it's all going to kind of synthesize itself into, okay, here are all the greatest pieces of wisdom or the greatest insights that I've taken away from those 5-6 conversations. And then what's cool is that another artist will hear that poem maybe and say, oh, I'm going to have a conversation with somebody that's going to lead to a script I'll write, or a painting that I'll paint, or a piece of choreography I'm going to create. And so again, we're all responding to each other. That's like, when you boil it down, humans are here to learn from each other and to pass on information to each other. That's why we have babies. It's why we have friends. We're here to interact.
Constantly sharing that story and passing down the knowledge. Constantly.
That's it. And it becomes the way that you interpret your own narrative is through the stories you tell other people, and the stories that you receive from other people. And so you don't even know, if I was born in a cave, I wouldn't know if I was a tall person or a short person until I met some other humans and stood next to a group of them and said, okay, I'm one of the tall ones. And so we define ourselves by other people. And so, yeah, it's kind of like you got to be a people person if you're going to be an artist. If you're going to be an artist that's creating art that other people can relate to. Mark Twain, he loved to talk to people and hear their stories, and he was really fascinated by the human condition. And so I think that's one of those artists I try to be. If we're on an elevator together, I don't care if we're only going to be on the elevator for 3-4 floors. I'm going to say hello. How's you doing all right? Like I like to start conversations with people, and being a 6'2" black man sometimes
it can be a little challenging.
Yeah, some people want to hide their purse or lock their doors when I walk by, but I think for me, I just try to live. I try to live my best life, and I try to wear my joy on my sleeve when I'm happy, and when I don't feel like being bothered, there's another way I could carry myself for that. But on my good days, I try to wear my joy on my sleeve because I really feel like I want to inspire other people to live in their truth and be themselves and say what's on their mind and speak their hearts. And
So
you know,
what would be your theme then if you're talking about overall the course of all of your work, whether it's, whichever text you're using,
yeah,
whatever medium it is, what's your theme?
I've always
It's
been kind of
to me in a
I've
way.
always been pretty counterculture. Later in my life, I wrote much more political poetry. Uh, but I just, as someone who was abused as a child, I hate a bully, and so whenever I view like racism or sexism or homophobia or any of these things, or transphobia, I see these things and I just see bullies. I just see people being bullied, and so for me, I try to not to speak on other people's behalf. I speak my existence as a black man in America, as an atheist in America, um, as kind of a misfit in America. Um, I try to speak up for the other misfits, and that's kind of always been at the core of all of my work. Is that I represent for all the weirdos out there. And yeah, I try to encourage everybody to kind of get in touch with their inner weirdo. All of us are unique. uh and so yeah, that's kind of at the heart of what I've always done.
I so misfits. I see where the whole jobs thing kind of fits in too, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, some people are great at what they do. That doesn't mean that you want to have a beer with them. We've all heard the stories of how he was not necessarily a people person.
Right.
I was a huge Prince fan, and I know a couple of guys that have played with him and met him and spent time around him. He was a good person. He donated loads of money to charity and helped a lot of people out, went out of his way for a lot of people, but he just didn't have those social skills quite often to chit chat about the weather, and I think that doesn't necessarily mean somebody's not a good person, because they don't have that social intelligence that some of us take for granted, or some of us didn't get it. Some people just didn't get a chance to develop that social intelligence too,
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I think that for me, it is about I mean, if we can all just kind of embrace the fact that we're all different, then we would stop trying so hard to fit into these cliques and these groups and these these kind of pockets of entitlement, so that we could throw rocks at other people and enjoy some of our status at the expense of others. I feel like if we could just, for me, a big part of it is just modeling it, and just not batting an eye. If I choose to critique something that people love or whatever, that I'm just critiquing it. I'm not trying to kill anybody's good time, but
It's
I'm
not
gonna.
right. It's not wrong. It's just different. And if
It's
we
just
can live,
different.
it's just different. We can just live with this just different. Everything will be
Well,
fine.
I think under the guise of that, you have a lot of people who they get their feathers ruffled when you talk about being politically correct. And before we called it that, we just called it being considerate. If somebody wants to be called a certain thing, then you call them that. You don't dead name people or misname people on purpose just because you want to prove a point, right? And so I think for me, at the heart of it, it's got to be like, you're here on this earth with other people. Like, you need to be trying to be a good person before your time is up. You need to be trying to make this world a better place it was before you got here. Add something to the human presence on this planet, because we're still trying to figure it out too. We just got here. The dinosaurs were here over 10 million years. We're new. Like, humans been here what,
so fresh right now.
500,000 years maybe. Like, we haven't been here that long. We're living in the
All
first
you have
days.
to do is look to the stars or somewhere across a long bit of land to get your scale in the world, right?
Yeah, we're living in the first days. and so we're all, you know, we're not so far removed from the early evolution of man and or humankind, and we're still trying to figure it out. And so I think we're going to get it figured out. It won't be in my lifetime. It won't be in my kids' lifetime, but we're going to get it all figured out. I'm optimistic about that.
I do hope, and I know we might not get a chance to see it, my friend, together, but it sure is nice to think about.
We get all this, you know. It's like you know, I mean,
hey, I'm happy with this.
I got beautiful kids, a beautiful wife. I just moved into a beautiful home. She let me have my own little music room. I'm still trying to put together. You know, I got a lot to be thankful for. I'm lucky, you know, growing up where I grew up, I'm lucky. But, you know, also, like, I gotta lose a little sleep over the people who deserve what I have and don't have it. And I gotta break a little sweat to try to give back. And so I gotta model that for people as well, you know.
You're making people break a few tears along the way. I cannot wait. It's not, don't take this wrong way. I can't wait to end this show so I can go back and watch and listen to you again. That was so profound, man. I cannot wait to hear that again.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have to say it's good to hear there's gratitude there. There's awareness and thankfulness. You're passing that along. And I know one of my first reactions to your work is it's uplifting. And I guess I say that because maybe it's becoming channeling from that whole misfit thing, but you are sticking up for others and bringing awareness to things. And it's nice to see that, brother. It's good to see that you're willing to fight for it and help us all make this a better place through your talents. And you have many of them. And thank you for sharing them with us.
Well, thank you, Rob, for being interested in those talents, because us artists right now, we're all, you know, dying to have somebody listen to a poem right now, you know.
Well, and look, with that, in the spirit of that, let's talk about something really quick, because look, we're going way long, but that's all right. I'm okay with it. This is great. Dima can slap my hand next week. We'll be fine. Look, this is good stuff. But you know, something that happened yesterday was 225 gives. It was our chance to give back, and you know, just so thankful that Arts Council of Greater Baton Rouge plays the role that they play of supporting other artists. And we blew out some numbers yesterday, and you helped us get some more membership. So I gotta tell you, this is it's when I started at the Arts Council over a year ago. One of the first things we talked about was the artist memberships, and I was like, so what does an artist get if they're, you know, a member? And so Renee ran down the list of, like, you know, they get discounts when they want to rent space at the Arts Council, all this stuff that they get. And I was like, okay, so cool. How much does a membership cost? And she was like, it's $35. And I was like, it's $35 a month? She's like, no, that's for the year. It's like, are you serious? We need to raise the price of it. She's like, no, we're gonna keep it right where it is. You know, like you know, it's and so what we had not been doing a great job at was communicating that to the artists in the community. That's huge value, yeah.
Yeah, and of course we're doing a whole lot of other amazing things, right? And we have a small staff and we do a lot, so we're all like spread really thin. And so this was an opportunity. You know, Renee was like, okay, well, whatever staff member can get the most people to sign up, I'm gonna give them a day off. I was like, oh, cool, I can use a day off.
Nice.
So I reached out to a big handful of my artist friends and I said, look, we got a contest going on at Word. Sign up to become an artist member. If I win, I get a day off from work. If I don't win, I'll use that day to sending you more emails. So
could have been off today. Thought you were a friend.
So do you decide if you want me to have an off day or you want me to be at work sending you emails? But then, you know, in all seriousness, like I broke down for them how cool, you know, the artist membership really is. And we're moving into this $3.6 million facility next year.
Yes, triangle building.
Yes, and you know, as an artist member, you get all these discounts on renting space, on using, you know, there's space there to work, there's office space, there's a theater, there's a recording studio in there. And so like I was just like, it was an easy sell, you know? And so yeah, I got a day off coming up. I'm probably just gonna spend it sleeping. But yeah, I got a day off coming up.
In your new music room.
Yes.
You earned it.
Yeah. I've been doing more voiceover work, which is so cool, but it's kind of like, you know, I remember I would like have to memorize poems and like create blocking for these pieces, and I would go to these competitions, and you know, I'd make gas money at the end of the night, you know. And so when I started getting into voiceover work, I was like, wait a minute, I just have to read this 30-second script and you're gonna pay me what?
Yeah. And then now people are paying you for it, and friends like Tommy can, you know, try and get you more paid work. And
yes.
I love
Mouths
it.
to
Look,
feed.
and that's the truth. One last thing, we got to let everyone else know how they can get more of you, my friend. So you're doing the AC23 podcast, right? The show, right?
Yes, we do. AC23 is a weekly podcast. You could go to Apple Podcasts and check it out. It's also we upload it to the website. You can listen. You can stream it right from the Arts Council website, artsbr.org. And yeah, you know, I'm out here. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. You know, I'm on stage with the Mike Foster Project whenever we're doing outside gigs. But yeah, and some virtual gigs. And we're writing a lot of music right now too. So hopefully, you know, there'll be
Nice.
an album coming out sometime soon. But yeah,
Sweet.
yeah,
It's exciting stuff, man.
yes, indeed.
Well, look, thank you for sharing, you know, your time and your talents today. This has been awesome. I'm so glad I got a chance to have one-on-one time with you.
Yes,
I got to ask all the questions I wanted to ask you, and I am kind of sad Dima didn't get to, you know, kind of dig in a little bit with this, but she can watch, and I hope she cries too when she watches this, even though she heard it already. I cannot wait to go back and listen to this again. Chancellor Xero Skidmore, everybody. This man is amazing. And thank you for being here tonight on Chit Chat.
Thank you for having me.
Take it easy, buddy. Stay safe, and happy holidays, okay?
Happy holidays. Peace.
Bye, buddy. Well, that's it, my friends. That's our show for today. And I would love for you to recommend another guest. It's got to be the quality of Xero, though. Don't you be giving me a whole bunch of zeros unless it's, you know, Chancellor Xero Skidmore. I want a whole bunch of 10s. You're going to bring me some great recommendations. And look, we're always looking for good speakers, community leaders, and someone with a story to tell. We got literally all of that tonight. Hell yeah. So excited. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for watching, everybody. Happy holidays. We'll see you on our next show.